all we have here are the board members and the presenters. That's it.
What's that old man still hobbling around with a cane?
He is.
We're getting right up to the set.
Hey, old man! What's with the cane?
Very cool. They're gonna have to work that out. That's where they should have their radios.
Dr. Z, we're live streaming.
Live right now.
I just
We
watched,
are?
Anderson's had
Should I wait
some
for the-
down there.
What's that?
It's astounding.
Wait for what?
Numbers of kids.
Oh,
Wait for the,
well, we,
go.
Yeah.
we work,
Take
I'm on
one.
the board of administration in India.
And action.
And I went over, I've been over a number of times, but the first time I went over and saw the ministry, we were standing in the red light district, we were standing in the corner, waiting for our ride. We stood there 25 minutes. Proposition, probably 15. And I was watching this one young girl, who was my daughter, probably 14. And that 20-minute time for business. And I'm like, you gotta be kidding. Like, I cannot sit here and not do something. And so we've gotten very involved in his ministry, and it's just been, yeah, it's crazy how much, it's just crazy.
Now, the people in the other room can only hear it? The people in the other room can see and hear?
Yeah,
Yeah, why?
both. They can see and hear. But they have to come here, obviously either side to comment.
I get it.
Mr. Mike,
They said that one of the vents is not working.
I think you might be at that one.
Hey, sir, how are you? In front of the building.
I can't
Yes.
Like so we were there. So what happened? This, that. Under the bed.
That's after you take a shot of vodka for each person that speaks. You get to wipe your mouth with it.
Got it.
That's what I'm doing.
It was like souvenirs.
Well, and that's
Yeah, I
what,
know.
that's what our ministry does. We rescue
That's what I was just looking
our,
for.
and so we educate them, and so yes, that's,
Okay.
Yeah, not super.
What are these for?
Where'd it come from?
They're on everybody's desk.
these all on.
I don't have one.
Are we like marked or something?
I have no idea. Maybe you are. That's the scarlet letter.
prize?
What do I win?
Who said that? Oh, I wasn't
Thank you,
sure.
John.
Yep.
Yeah, not all of us have them.
Hey, Dave. What are these for?
Hey,
I don't know,
Okay.
but I could use one to wipe my face.
Oh, board, if we're going to be ready to start here in a minute, so. Are we ready, board? Want to get ready to start?
It's 7 o'clock.
Bus.
Yeah.
You ready down there?
hey, I didn't see you, Mike.
Okay.
Hi.
As soon as it hits it, we're starting.
Can we just double check?
A link outside.
Todd.
What?
Because everybody's probably logging in at one time. That's probably-
Okay. Stay on. Okay.
What's that? Nancy? They can.
Okay. Are we ready? Good evening to those in the auditorium here and to those watching virtually here online in the building and online at home if you're there. I'd like to call to order this July 27th meeting of the Conestoga Valley School Board. And I would like to notice that everyone is in attendance. If you could all please join me with the pledge to the flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. I'm going to try to do a better job here talking into these mics so everybody can hear. But again, welcome to everyone in his attendance. Board, I need a motion to approve our agenda tonight.
I move we approve the agenda.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? All right, we have an agenda. Dr. Z, any comments tonight? Oh,
Yes, Mr. President, you notice one change in the agenda.
hold on a second.
What we should do is start singing into the microphones and then listen to
Slight delay.
ourselves in a round.
All right, go ahead, Z.
You guys just wait just a moment. I think they're going to fix that in just a second.
Okay.
Start with row, row, row your boat at your end.
Just getting a delay inside, so they're just going to make an adjustment. My computer's doing it. Okay.
Give it a shot. All right, Dr. Z, your comments tonight.
Thank you, Mr. President. You will notice one change in the agenda found on the superintendent's report, highlighted in red. Michelle Weaver will be joining the CV team as our new speech and language pathologist. You will also see a number of professional hires, and each one is excited to join the Buckskin family. We will be introducing to them to you in person at our August board meeting. That's all, Mr. President.
All right, that was quick. All right, any correspondence from the secretary? All right. Any board comments tonight?
Just a quick one. I've been trying to get my exercise in up in the school parking lot, and I just want to say what a delight it's been to see students out practicing and preparing for fall sports, all really excited and looking amazing.
Yeah. I'd like to comment too, thanking everyone, Josh, your staff, your team of people that have worked really hard to get us able to meet here like this tonight. I really appreciate that, so thank you, Josh, and your team. All right. This is going to be our first time in our meeting for public comments. There is a public comments later on after the bulk of the meeting. One of the things that I want to make clear to everyone is that as you approach the board to give your comments, I want to remind each person speaking, and I want to remind the board that this is not a question and answer time. It is specifically comments. Board, take notes, do whatever you need to do, but it is not a time for us to dialogue back and forth answering questions. So that's just a reminder.
President, also maybe to remind, this is for citizens of
Correct. It's for
Conestoga.
residents of Conestoga Valley. And I should say, too, if you have public comments, you have approximately 3 to 5 minutes to give your comments. We will notify you if you hit that time limit. And as you approach, we'll then ask you to exit the auditorium so the next person can give their comments. So are there any public comments tonight? That's fine. And remember to say who you are, where your residence is, and
Hi, Board. My name is Mike Kime. My residence is, my address you want, 2134 Meadow Ridge Drive.
perfect.
I just took over as a youth soccer club president just as COVID started, which was wonderful. And my question I have, the board's been wondering, guys, we've been planning for the fall season here. There's been a lot of back and forth just if we do have the approval to use the fields or not. Diane Henry said we do, but we just wanted to kind of verify with the board that we are all set to keep progressing with our plans.
In that regard, Dave, that's a yes or no.
Yep. I'll make sure I get back with you through Ms. Henry.
Okay. Thank you.
Yep.
Do you have anybody, Matt? One more? Okay.
Good evening. My name's Jen Zoll, and my residence is 2497A Old Philadelphia Pike. And I'm here kind of in the same situation. I'm representing Conestoga Valley Youth Football and Cheer. In addition, I had a daughter who was playing for soccer this fall as well. But we are wondering, on our school webpage, our district webpage, it says, notice, playgrounds, courts, and athletic fields now open. Notice, playgrounds, courts, and athletic fields are open for public use when not being used by Conestoga Valley teams. All athletes, coaches, students, and guests must follow current CDC and Department of Health guidelines. Yet we still have not heard whether we will be able to use these fields or not, and we start on August 3rd, which is Monday. So we have been able to get a Plan B, Plan C, which is not ideal. We also, the football program here, we have a shed on school property that we've not been given access to get our equipment out. We don't have any place to do our equipment handouts when we have them. I have right now a garage full of helmets, pants, jerseys, because we have nowhere to put these things. So I'm asking to, or commenting, could you please, I know it's not the most important issue, but it is very important to our community and some of our local youth that we can figure out if we do have access to those fields.
Jen, I'll make sure we get back to you tomorrow.
Okay, thank you so much. Have a good night.
No? All right. Thank you for those comments. Comments from CVEA.
Just check. Can you guys hear me through this mask with the? Okay. My name is Tara Flick. I'm a biology teacher and president of the Conestoga Valley Education Association. I will be starting my 24th year at CV. And since I'm 50, that means I've been teaching almost half of my life at CV. Teaching is a calling. We want to educate, help, nurture, and prepare our students for the world. We understand the importance of teaching in person. We desperately want to teach in person, and we know that the school provides more than just an education. As teachers, we make sacrifices to do everything possible for our students. But now we're being asked to put our own family members' health and lives at risk. In a survey of our members, 21% have a medical issue that put them at a high risk for severe illness of COVID infection. 40% of our members have someone in their household who is in a high-risk category. That works out to 58 and 112 individuals, respectively. We desperately want to teach in person, but we want to do it as safely as possible. We ask ourselves, what if I give COVID-19 to a student, my family, my coworkers, my friends? What if they're hospitalized? What if someone dies because I gave them COVID? In Lancaster County, there have been 5,200 confirmed cases of COVID-19 since March. With a population of 545,000, that's about a 1% infection rate across the county over that time. Please remember that that number is with schools being closed. If what we see in the community is mirrored in our schools, then we can expect that CV, with a student population of about 4,200, that we will see 40 students test positive. We have approximately 400 employees. We will see 40 adults test positive. In the adult cases, approximately 20% will develop severe illness, and possibly someone could die. That 40%, or sorry, that 20% could be about 8 adults in the buildings. Think about what this means every time someone has symptoms and/or test positive for COVID-19. How many students and teachers will need to be quarantined? How often might this occur? It is estimated that each infected person can infect anywhere between 1 and 3 people with COVID-19. We could very quickly be looking at a large outbreak in CV. There are 3 tenets to mitigate the spread of this virus and keep our students, faculty, and staff as safe as possible: social distancing, cloth face coverings, and washing hands. Governor Wolf's order dated July 1st makes it mandatory for all students to wear a face covering unless, and I quote, they have a medical or mental health condition or disability documented in accordance with Section 504 of the Rehabilitation Act that precludes the wearing of a face mask in school. The order further describes face coverings as a covering of the nose and mouth that is secured to the head with ties, straps, or loops over the ears, or is wrapped around the lower face. The CDC recommends cloth face coverings for all children unless they are medically unable to wear a mask. In terms of face shields, the CDC states the following: the CDC does not recommend the use of face shields for normal everyday activities or as a substitute for cloth face coverings because of a lack of evidence of their effectiveness for source control. We will not be safe unless you require all students who are medically able to wear cloth face coverings. Masks are about keeping those around us safe. We should be promoting masks as a way to take care of one another. That's what CV has always done as a community. We take care of one another. The World Health Organization reported that data from 172 different studies indicate that wearing face masks reduces the spread of COVID. Maintaining a 6-foot distance in our schools is just not possible. In most rooms, there might be a 1 to 2 foot distance between desks. Yes, we can arrange our rooms to maximize that distance, but it will not be anywhere near 6 feet in most rooms. This, of course, makes wearing masks even more critical. I don't envy you the decision that you have to make. You're being asked to make a decision that balances education and safety, and we know that it is very difficult. We want you to make masks mandatory for students so that as a community, we are all doing our part to slow the spread of the virus and protect each other. We also want you to consider opening school on a hybrid schedule for roughly the first 3 to 6 weeks of school. This is not in the plan that you're going to be looking at tonight, but we're asking you to think about this. A hybrid schedule would mean we alternate teaching students in person and virtually. Teachers would be in school every day, but students would be split equally into 2 groups, each receiving in-person and virtual learning. There are several ways to do this. You can alternate every other day, you can alternate every 2 days, you could alternate every week. A variety of options are there. What that hybrid schedule would immediately do is reduce the number of students in classrooms, cafeterias, buses, hallways, etc. by half. We would better be able to adjust and enforce our new safety procedures. We would be able to get closer to the 6-foot social distancing metric, which in turn would reduce the number of students potentially impacted by an outbreak. The CDC lists the hybrid model immediately after masks, social distancing, and hand washing as a way to slow the spread of the virus. International schools that have reopened successfully are using smaller cohorts of students, as seen in China, Denmark, Norway, Singapore, Taiwan, South Korea, and I could go on. We realize that this will cause problems for parents who need daycare for younger students. But if all students are in school, then more students, and therefore teachers, are potentially part of what would amount to a bigger outbreak. We think opening in a hybrid schedule is the best way to follow the 3 tenets: wearing cloth masks, 6-foot social distancing, and washing hands often, while still providing some in-person instruction, which, as I said before, is what we desperately want to do. Going back to school is going to be an experiment where we have to put our health and lives at risk, as well as students and family members. Please bear with me, I am a biology teacher. Going back to school will be like walking into a petri dish. Let's not jump into this head first. Let's dip our toes in the water, so to speak, rather than jumping in a cannonball. Let's start school on a hybrid schedule and see how things work out. After 3 or 6 weeks, if things are running smoothly and we have no major outbreaks, then we can try to bring all the students back. The hybrid schedule will give you the data that you need to really be able to decide, is it okay to open schools with everybody coming back all at the same time? This will enable you to make decisions based on facts, not models, guesses, and hypotheticals. We do have concerns and questions that have not yet been answered. I want to mention some of them, and please know that my actual list is much longer, but I am cognizant of both your time and mine. So here are some of the questions that have been passed to me from teachers and counselors and nurses, etc. What accommodations or other safety measures will be offered to teachers who are at risk or have family members who are at risk for severe COVID illness? We are worried that without additional custodial staff, it will be difficult to clean and sanitize our rooms as they should be. We think we need more nurses to address the additional burden that they will have in treating potential cases and students with symptoms that could be COVID. We are concerned that substitutes will not want to work in a building where there's been an outbreak. We are worried about traveling teachers who are exposed to different buildings and could spread COVID to different buildings. What will the district do if a student refuses to wear a mask and it is not because of a documented reason? What if that student is with a teacher who is in a high-risk category? We are also concerned about our poor HVAC systems in most of the buildings and how often filters are going to be replaced. As I said, these questions are just the tip of the iceberg. There are endless questions. I hope that you will seriously consider starting school on a hybrid schedule so that we can maximize our social distancing and we can kind of figure out how this actually looks as we approach the school year. I thank you for your time.
Tara, may I have your report? Yeah, can I have that? I have lived a couple pieces. Okay. Thank you, Tara. Are there comments from any other employee groups? All right. Board, you'll see in front of you the consent agenda. Many of the things are routine in nature that we've discussed previously, or their annual renewals of contracts and things of that. So unless there are any questions about the consent agenda, it looks like you have a question.
I have one question, if I may.
Yep.
And this is for the business office, and I apologize for not having time to get in touch with them beforehand. And usually checks on that list don't pop out at me, but I did notice what seemed to be a much larger number than I expected for the PSBA payment. I wondered if that was membership plus services such as policy.
I did. Can I get back to you about that? I don't have the details with me at the moment, but I know it was for membership.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, because I'm sure that could have been just membership. Thank you.
Any other questions, board? If not, I need a motion to approve our consent agenda tonight.
Move to approve consent agenda?
Second.
All right, roll call starting with Julia.
Aye.
Aye. Aye. Aye.
Aye.
Aye.
Aye.
And aye. All right. Okay, I think this is our time in our meeting for our budget update. I think we have representatives from RBC and from the swap company. Phyllis, do you have anything you want to say to start?
Yeah, while the team's making their way from the back room, so when we talked a couple of months ago about the middle school project, one of the things we talked about was the ability to extend the swap. So instead of terminating it this year, essentially pushing it out another year. So there, in order to do that, some pieces that have to fall into play. So we have with us tonight John Fry from Public Financial Management. If you remember, when we first went through the interest rate management plan, John was here, went through the plan with us. So there's an update to that. So John will go through that. Our newly vetted bond counsel, Donna Kreiser, is here with Tim as well to go through the resolution and some of the legal pieces. And the person probably needs no introduction to you, Scott Kramer from RBC, is also here to lend his voice to the confirmation and the transaction that's actually going to take place tomorrow, should you vote tonight for us to proceed. So with that, I think John's going to start, right? So I'll let John, and I'll get out of the way.
John, what do you like up there? Which one?
Excuse me, the swap resolution. Good evening, everyone. Nice to be here. Again, John Fry from PFM Financial Advisors. So the process that you went through 2 years ago, you set up the 2 interest rate hedges. The one is going to expire here next week, August 1st. And so this was as part of your overall hedging plan, since you're not ready to issue bonds for your capital projects, which is ultimately what this hedge is supposed to be taken off and terminated when you're ready to issue bonds. Okay, so because of that, and you're not ready to issue bonds because for the project, the thought is here to extend it from August 1 of 2020 to August 1 of 2021, give you the flexibility over the next year at any time to terminate the hedge prior to that and issue your bonds. So it creates that flexibility, and we'll continue to monitor it as your financial team. For state law purposes, while this is just an amendment to the swap, you still have to go through the same process. So that's your counsel is here with this resolution. One of the exhibits to the resolution is the interest rate management plan, which again is just the document per state law that just kind of lays out the terms of the swap. And so my office, as your swap advisor, updated that, and that's an exhibit to this resolution. As Phyllis had pointed out, we'll actually be on the phone call tomorrow with the RBC and the PFM swap group in Philadelphia to actually execute the hedge, lock in the new interest rate. Then our office will also be providing, also required by state law, the opinion that the pricing is fair and consistent with the terms and conditions in the market. So happy to answer any questions, but everything is in order for the execution of this tomorrow so that it can be taken off prior to the expiration date later this week.
Board, any questions? All right, thank you.
Great, thank you.
Good evening. My name is Tim Horstman. I'm with McNeese Wallace and Nurick, your bond counsel. And as John indicated, we prepared a resolution which would put in place the extension of the existing swap by 1 year. I'll briefly go through the resolution. It's not overly complicated. The resolution does ratify and confirm the appointment of PFM as your swap advisor, authorizes the appointment of my firm McNeese as your legal counsel in connection with the execution of the swap. Beyond that, the resolution contains a number of representations and ratifications and appointments regarding the swap counterparty, RBC. Makes a number of representations required under the Local Government Unit Debt Act. The swap resolution was advertised in accordance with the Debt Act, and assuming it is approved tonight, we'll then proceed with the necessary second legal notice, followed by the filing of the necessary notice with the Department of Community and Economic Development. It was a very brief overview of it, but if there are any questions about the swap, I'm happy to answer them. Thank you.
I think so. Thank you. You have anything to add, Mr. Kramer?
I think that pretty much sums it up.
Okay. Adele, are you following that with, well, actually, yeah, or should I, well, we need to vote on that, right?
Go ahead and do that one first.
Do what? Read. Okay.
Approve that?
I need a motion to approve the adjusted swap.
So moved.
Second.
Roll call starting with Phil.
Aye.
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 And aye. Thank you, guys, for your help. Appreciate your work in that.
Don't wear such a scary mask.
Go
Dodgers.
Children are
This
big
is
stars,
scary
man,
enough.
and it helps encourage them to wear their masks. Thank you.
Good evening, everyone. How are you? Other than nice and toasty and warm outside. So anyway, every July is when I come to you and I give you an update on our banking and investing plans for the upcoming year. So I thought I'd break it down into 3 very brief sections for you. The first is to tell you a little bit about who we work with for banking and investing, how we protect the district's money, and then what our investment landscape looks like for the upcoming year. So Pennsylvania School District Liquid Asset Fund goes by the acronym of PSLAF. We have most of our checking accounts with them, including our general fund checking account, which has a very, very large amount of transactions that goes through that account every year. PSLAF also manages our general fund investment portfolio. In addition, we have some accounts with PLIGIT. That's the acronym for Pennsylvania Local Government Investment Trust. Specifically, we have our construction fund checking account with PLIGIT, and they also manage our bond proceeds investment portfolio. And then we have a depository account with Fulton Bank. So working with PSLAF and PLIGIT is advantageous because they service primarily school districts in the state of Pennsylvania. So they're very familiar with our cash flow trends. And in addition, they are very well versed in the types of investments that school districts can use. Pennsylvania School Code Section 440.1 is very specific about how school districts can place their money. Some of the common types of investments that we use are treasury notes, treasury bills, federal agencies, and certificates of deposit. And I want to point out specifically that our school board investment policy number 609 coincides with this particular code section for investments. The reason I point that out is that several years ago, next slide. Yeah, thank you. Several years ago, Act 10 of 2016 was signed into law. And what Act 10 of 2016 did was to expand the types of investments that school districts can use. In addition to the types of investments already in the Pennsylvania School Code, school districts with caution could also invest in commercial paper, negotiable CDs, and bills of exchange. And to kind of illustrate, next slide, please, Dr. Z, thank you. To kind of illustrate the difference between the 2 types of investment options that are available, the Pennsylvania School Code Section 440 that we use is very conservative. The primary principle is the legality of the type of investment. The second principle is the safety of the principal of that investment, the liquidity to meet our cash needs, and then also the yield, the interest rate of return. And what you can see here is really how the second and fourth principle under the Act 10 of 2016 was swapped, where yield now becomes the second primary principle and safety becomes the fourth. So I feel it's my obligation every year to make you aware of Act 10 of 2016 investments that are permitted. I know we've discussed it in the previous years. If that is ever something that you want to discuss, we'd have to have some very detailed discussions, and any changes would also require a change to our school board policy. But what I can tell you, too, is that about 2.5 years ago, PSLAF started a program which incorporated some of the Act 10 investments into that program. And to date, no other school districts have participated in that particular investment program. I don't know what school districts are doing outside on their own, but I'm not aware of any participating in PSLAF's particular program. Next slide, thank you. So we take other measures in order to protect the district's money. We've been working closely with PLIGIT and PSLAF. They provide us with their check stock, which has security features embedded in the stock to be able to identify if there's ever a fraudulent check that's presented to the bank, if someone's trying to falsify a check. In addition, I'm working with PSLAF very closely. They have a positive pay program. So every time that we cut checks out of any of our bank accounts, I run a file out of our financial software and upload it into the bank. So as checks are presented, the bank is comparing that information on that check against the information from our financial software. And if there are any discrepancies, then we would receive an alert notification. And we also have some very detailed and strict internal control procedures so that if an employee or a vendor is contacting us to make any changes to their banking information for direct deposit, We vet that out and to verify the authenticity of the origin of that information. As many of you know too, there are a lot of email phishing schemes that are going on, and CV, like others, have been receiving some of those emails over time. Okay. So this time of year, I have a very detailed cash flow analysis that I provide to PISLAV, and what I do is detail out the anticipated cash inflows, and you can see our majority of our revenues, real estate tax revenues, are received during the July, August, and early September timeframe. And given the economic pressure, I did also push some of those collections out through further months. So that is reflected in this cash inflows, but really after we get through the discount in early September timeframe, our revenues pretty much even out. Next slide. Now, our expenditures are definitely more sporadic, as you can see. And what I want to point out with some of the months, such as September and December, March and June, that's when we have some of our large payments, especially what we pay to PEASers for the employer contribution. We pay that every quarter, and that's about $2.25 million. In addition, some of the other months, we have our debt service payments, and then just the way the calendar falls, there are 2 months out of every year where we have 3 payrolls instead of 2, so that does increase those cash outflows those months. And the last slide, it's hard to show you this because you can see that the fluctuation in our investment income, that rate that we're getting now with investments has dropped significantly low, but you saw those numbers during the budget process, how that decreased. So we work with PISLAV very closely and with our investments, and what we'll do is continually revisit what our cash needs are, what monies we have liquid. We'll be revisiting some of the interest rates, and there could be times when, if interest rates are increasing, we will obviously invest any available monies that we have, but we can also at times liquidate an investment at a much lower rate and place that money with something with a lot higher rate. And we also work with Pliget too on looking at our adjusted cash flows for the construction project too. And I've been in contact with them, and we're looking at, as we have some large maturities coming up in the next 2 months, we'll be looking at them and what a revised cash flow is for the middle school construction fund too. So anyway, just my annual update to you. If you have any questions, I'll be glad to try and answer them. And any other information that you ever would like, I can also certainly provide you.
I noticed that they finally decided to address our ability to extend the discount period and get rid of the penalty period. How long would we have to decide if we wanted to do that?
Well, the tax bills already went out.
I know, I got mine. Thank you very much.
Yes, the tax bills were already mailed out. Phyllis, I don't know if there's do you know offhand if there's a set time frame when we could make any changes to discount or penalty collection? It would be very...
No, unfortunately, my understanding was that piece of legislation was only for this coming year. And so having had it become law after most people's tax bills already went out makes it difficult to sort of put the genie back in the bottle.
Yeah, I thought, because we actually know what it costs us to send that all out, and that would be on top of, I don't know that we'd lose that much from extending that so much as what it would cost us to do it.
Yeah, it would probably, I mean, you're talking postage and the printing fees, that could be 10 to 12,000, possibly. I could be a little off my numbers, but it's...
You
it
said
would be
12.
expensive. 10 to 12 maybe, yes.
Yeah, thank you.
Anything else? All right, thank you all very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, now we're going to be looking for Matt from Murata, Maine, to give us some conversations here about a couple change orders at Brownstown. Either one. You can come up here if you want to.
Let's make it the
That's right.
Costumes.
That's right.
Hello,
Matt Griffith, Donald Mabe with Marana Main Architects. We're here regarding Brownstown Elementary School. We have one change order to review and just one update for the course of the project. Plumbing change order 3, sometime in the middle to the end of February, the existing hot water heater that served the kitchen started to leak and fail. And obviously, this was prior to COVID and prior to school being shut down, so we needed to provide hot water to the kitchen. The solution was to create temporary connections with PEX provided by the district, and the plumber provided the labor and a few materials to keep us up and running. That change order was $2,132, and it was a necessity to keep our kitchen provided with hot water. Great. Is there any questions or any comments on that?
You need approval?
Yeah.
Yeah, we need to vote on that.
I move that we accept the change order as presented.
Second.
I'm going to do it this way. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? All right.
How are we doing with the completion? September, still on track?
Well, the teachers are coming back August 20th. 24th is students. We have 3.5 weeks, so we have a big push to go here.
Okay. On track? Yeah? Okay.
We are trending on track. Some of these spaces will be completed after school starts,
Okay.
obviously, but we're trying to the classrooms are just getting wrapped up, and we're finishing up the admin and nursing, cafeteria, things of that nature now. So the push is to get as much done, obviously, before school starts. The other one is just an update on the operable partition. Obviously, we are in the process of this update, and currently, we are at 11.4% of the not-to-exceed number at $18,604. And we have 4 partitions and the masonry infills remaining. That work is completed. I just am waiting for the tickets to review and possibly push back or approve, and then we should be able to hopefully wrap this up in the near future. Is there any questions on the operable partition, change order update, and where we stand currently? Okay.
All right.
That's it.
Thank you, Matt.
Yep, thank you.
Ken is up. 4, actually. Right? Next 4.
Yeah, I'm up here for a few items. I
You're up,
believe.
you got the next
So-
4, Ken.
Yeah, good evening, everyone. Keeping in that theme of water heaters going bad.
We don't like that theme.
No, neither do I, believe me. I'd prefer to find something else to focus on. But the ones at Leola are following down that path of Brownstown. I don't know if it's jealousy or what's going on. But, so I met with Moore Engineering, Scott Fisher, their plumbing engineer, had him come out and look at it. We found out the water heaters at Leola are about 7 years old, but due to hard water in that area, it's just literally corroding the bottom of the tanks out. And these are gas-fired tanks, so there's really no repairing them, there's no fixing them, so we have to fix by replacement. So really what I'm asking for is approval to use them for design services. I'm only actually looking for the first portion at 2911. The bidding I would handle on my own, and then the construction administration we'd handle internally as well. So just really on the design phase so that they could put together the documents and the specs so I could go out and get proposals from contractors for the repair work. So,
Wait, is it repair or replacement?
it's replacement.
Replacement?
I'm sorry. Yeah, it's replacement. And going to, in a sense, a different system, not a tank with the heater at the bottom.
Yeah.
It would be a separate heater with a separate tank. So again, to get away from that same problem that's been a recurring issue. So in a sense, the same kind of water heater system that we've installed at Brownstown.
Okay. Is Leola next in line for the construction, for the? or- We haven't figured that out yet? All right.
Yep.
So the only thing I ask is that since we're kind of up the water system, I think it'd be good if you replaced it with what you were gonna replace it anyways.
That's correct.
Is that what you're planning on
That's-
doing?
That's what we're
That's fine.
looking,
Yep.
you're looking to replace it with what we're moving to.
Yep.
That idea, that technology.
Do you want to use it from capital funds to do that, the bond funds? Can you do that?
Let's see how much it is.
Okay, all right.
All right, so board, I need a motion to approve the design phase of this for Ken.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Passed. There you go,
Great.
Ken.
Thank you.
Yep.
All right, which one's next? Acid neutralization tank. At the high school, we have a 50-gallon acid neutralization tank that services the entire science wing. That was put in 1989, I believe, when they did the addition for the science wing. I will be honest, I do not know the last time it was serviced. So I have not found any records of that. Every 5 years, it's recommended that the entire thing be cleaned out and repacked with new limestone so that it can work as a filter again for all the chemical waters and things coming out of the science department. So not that they're using a lot of chemicals anymore, but still, it's, it's part of the system, and if it gets clogged up, then it causes a backup, and then we have larger issues on our hands. So I got 2 proposals. They were opposite ends of the spectrum. Both companies are reputable. I've checked on both of them, so I'd recommend we go with the Eldridge Incorporated out of Westchester to basically clean and repack the tank.
All right.
How
Board.
do you manage your PM? How do you manage your PM to say a tank needs to be done every quarter, annually?
We have schedules on quite a few of the items.
is
This
it
is one
paper?
of those that's, no, actually, it's done through well, we have been using School Dude.
Okay.
We're moving to a program called FMX. So again, but this is one of those that, I don't know that there was any paperwork on. I haven't found anything in our records. I know it has been cleaned at some point, but when, I couldn't tell you. So,
I need a motion to approve the recommendation of Eldridge. for
So
this.
moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? All right. Thank you, Ken.
All right, next on the list, disposal of chemicals, paints, products, unknown items that have been sitting around in buildings and our warehouse for quite some time. A lot of the cleaning chemicals or gym floor treatments, some of this stuff has high VOCs in it. We cannot use these products. Some of it's just outdated and not have the potency anymore. It's gone with the previous mentality for years of this is what we ordered last year, this is what we're going to order again this year, and this is what we're going to order next year, and then the old stock never gets used up. So we've gone to more of a just-in-time scenario of ordering these kind of products, so we're not maintaining and holding on to all this old stock. Plus, we found cans and cans of paint, and somebody's theory at one time was dumping the cans of paint into a bigger can, a 55-gallon drum. So now I have a mystery can of paint.
I bet it's a pretty color, though.
I'm sure it's pretty color brown. So, but I don't know if they're oils or latex or what's in those cans. So we're just looking to get all this stuff cleaned up and get it disposed of in the proper method. So I got proposals from 3 companies, Eldridge being one out of Westchester, Elk out of Reading, and GemChem out of Lidditz. Eldridge and Elk were close in proximity and price, and GemChem was a little higher than the others. So my recommendation is to go with Eldridge for the disposal and proper, disposal and documentation that goes along with this.
All right, board, I need a motion to approve Ken's recommendation here.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.
Opposed? There you go, Ken.
And last on my list is the Ueda Gym. As we've been going through and monitoring all our roofs, the Ueda Gym has been on our watch list for a while. And it's getting to the point, I think if we keep pushing it off, we will be looking at a much larger project being a replacement. So the Ueda gym at the high school is the original gym back to 1957. The roof was replaced on that at some point in time with an EPDM roof or a rubber roof. And we're looking to do a restoration. So this would be an actual two-part coating that goes on the roof. They clean it, they redo all the seams, they put reinforcing on it, and then we get this coating put on top. This actually gives us an additional 20-year warranty out of the roof, which is great. So we put it out to bid. We had a nice grouping of bids from the majority of the companies there. Houck Services came in, a little bit. The low bid was slightly higher than what we had estimated. But in speaking to our roofing consultant, he feels that they probably started looking at the shape of the barrel and the safety related to the barrel shape and what it would take to, actually put the coating on and how to work that. So they probably added a little extra in there just for that aspect. Houck Services, actually, we've worked with all those roofing companies at some point in the past. Houck Services has done work on the high school in the past, so I have no issue with any of the companies that provided bids.
I move we accept the bid.
Second.
I have a question.
Yes.
With this over budget, does that mean something else isn't going to get done or will be made up with some of the things we've seen that were under budget?
No, we want to try to get all the things done we have on the list. So we'll make up with it for something that was under budget or see where we fall. Yep.
I had a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? All right, Ken, thank you for your work.
Thank you.
All right, Don.
Okay, good evening. I have
Good
two
evening.
items here. The first one is a professional development policy amendment, and this is based on Act 18 that amended Act 44 that was put in place in 2018 for safe schools. What this is indicating is the requirement of a minimum of 1 hour of professional development in the area of trauma-informed. Actually, under Act 44, it was 5 to 6 hours, I believe, and they amended it to 1 hour. So this is a boilerplate information or wording that we got from PSBA. So that's that item.
Any questions for Don on this one, Board?
We have to vote this as the first reading?
Not if it's the first reading.
I don't think so. Are we voting on this?
We have to vote on this as the first reading? No?
Okay, that's fine.
Okay.
The second item tonight is approval of a contract for a product called Seesaw, which is an LMS. During the continuity of education plan back in the spring, a number of teachers at the elementary level started using Seesaw as one of the free products that was out there. And it comes highly recommended through our teachers at the elementary level, as well as individuals at the IU. So what we're recommending is to have Seesaw in place, again, a learning management system for kindergarten through third grade. From fourth grade on, we're going to use Schoology as our LMS, which is what we've been using for years.
Questions for Don on this?
I move we approve it. Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? All right, thank you, Don.
Great, thank you.
Mr. Josh?
Good evening, everyone. First up, item for me to discuss with you is approval for a contract with Securely. Securely is one of the content filtering for SIPA requirement products that's out there. Currently, the district utilizes something through the intermediate unit that is a VPN-based tunnel. I will tell you that students are very clever, and they found ways to get around it. So we're looking at this product specifically for a couple of reasons. One is that it is, as soon as the devices for students are connected to the internet, it becomes active to their product. It's cloud-based, so it's wherever their connection is. It's also cross-platform. It's not Windows-specific. It does work on all things iOS, Android as well. So given some of the conditions with COVID, we're making sure that all the devices the students have will be protected. That's that. It also gives us the ability for monitoring the online resources with Office 365 and Google for key flag documents, things of that nature. So Okay?
You need approval for that tonight?
Mhm.
All right, board, I'll take a motion.
So moved.
Second.
Any questions from the board?
No, thank you for being out front of the security piece of it. Usually we're being reactive
Right.
instead of proactive, so this is great.
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? All right, thanks, Josh.
Yep. I have the next item as well, which is contract for Zoom. Zoom is what we have determined at the district that we're going to utilize for video communications. We've utilized that for board meetings over the summer. This is a contract that will give us full licensing for every staff and teacher at the district. Currently, we are utilizing free accounts, but under ConestogaValley.org, the restriction of 40-minute limit has been lifted by Zoom. However, it is a very strong implement that they will remove that come August and everybody will be back. So being prepared and having the opportunity to do video communication, we're looking to sign a contract with Zoom.
I have a question about security with that, Josh. And I've read a few articles that the material on Zoom's not really secured and all of it's filtered through some servers and outside of the United States. Is there any concern at all for protection of our students' data and other things whilst they're on these meetings?
So there was a number of questions that came up with Zoom originally when they first kind of got popular at the start of COVID. They have done a number of things with encryption and increased the security of their features. One of the benefits of having the contract that we have is we can designate which of their regional servers we can utilize, and we will stick strictly to United States East, United States West, which will make sure everything stays within the borders of the country. But they've done a lot. The other benefit is this is an enterprise account, which means I now have the ability to do enterprise oversight for all the management, which allows us to do single sign-on, secure encryption, things like that.
Perfect. Thank you so much.
All right, board, I need an approval.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Thanks, Josh.
Okay. And the last one should be pretty easy. This is the request for Comcast. It's an amendment. It is required for E-rate and everything due to the fact that we have Category 1 funding. At the Brownstown location, given the construction, one of the things that we have to do is we relocated the data hub within the building, which also requires that the fiber connection coming into the building has to be relocated as well. So based on Comcast, that is considered a reinstallation, not a move, so there's agreements that are involved. So that's what this is about. It's to hop down a pole and move to the other end of the building. Okay?
A motion to approve.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? All right, thanks, Josh.
Thank you.
Your turn, Phyllis, right?
Yeah, two quick things from me. One, we have for your review and approval an addendum to the SOS contract. So this is generated out of the discussions that we have had about some sort of supplemental payment to the staff that was here in the heat of COVID in the spring. So if you have any questions, I'll be glad to answer them, but that agreement's there. It's pretty short and sweet, so I don't know that there are lots of questions about it.
I move we accept this.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you, Phyllis.
Thank you. And then the next one is just, and I know you're probably thinking, wait, we already did this one, the Faithful Transportation Contract. When we went back to, after the contract was approved at the last meeting to get all the signatures, realized that in Faithful's case, unlike Brightville, they do not have personnel costs in. It's really their fixed costs is what they were covering. So they were uncomfortable with, and you saw it highlighted in the amended contract, some of the language that was in the one section. So in working with our solicitor, we came up with some different language that they're agreeable to, and so felt like we needed to bring it back for you because it is different than the one that you approved previously. Take any questions on that one?
All right, board, I need an approval to approve the revised contract.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Approved.
Okay, thank you.
Yep. I guess this one's you, Dr. Z?
It is.
Which one would you, if we're looking at our computers, which one would you like us to open? Which one would you like us to open if we're looking at our computers as opposed to the screen?
It's the PowerPoint.
Okay.
March 13, 2020 was the day that the governor informed schools that they would be closing their doors for what ended up being the rest of the 1920 school year. Since that date, we've been planning for the start of the 2021 school year. Information has been shared at a local, statewide, national, and international level as we all have had to deal with the impact of the COVID-19 virus. There were times the information seemed contradictory, lacked timeliness, and even direction. But throughout it all, we at CV have strived to develop a plan that will increase the health and safety of our students, faculty, and staff as we begin the new year. We acknowledge that the online option to finish the school year was not ideal for any child, whatever the district. But we all recognize the importance of getting our students back in school. 4 out of every 10 of our students qualify for a free or reduced lunch. 2 out of every 10 are identified as in need of special education services, and over 100 of our students are identified as homeless. Students and adults need social and emotional support. Students benefit from in-person learning opportunities, and we could provide a trusted adult in the lives of each of our children when they walk through our doors. In addition to the benefits I just mentioned, the impact on the community of opening our doors back up is just as impactful. With students in school, parents can return to work. With students in school, businesses can count on employees on a more regular basis. With students in school, parents become supporters of their children's learning process and not feel like they were primarily responsible for their children's success. And with students in school, the family-school balance is reestablished. In order for this to happen and to not go back to a purely online option, we have developed a school reopening health and safety plan. Knowing and acknowledging that we cannot stop the virus, we have, to the best of our ability, implemented procedures and protocols that are designed to mitigate the spread of the virus while still offering a face-to-face option. I'd like to take a moment to recognize the leaders that helped develop certain sections of the plan. Dr. Sally Bredeman and Mr. Dennis Quirk for their work on how the buildings will run during the pandemic. Phyllis Flesher, Ken Johnson, and Teresa Drager for their work on the cleaning, custodial, maintenance, and food service components of the plan. Dr. Don Mann and Dr. Kelly Cartwright for developing professional development sessions to inform our faculty and staff about the protocols. And Julie Iddings and Nancy Lopez for working through the notification protocol for those suspected or confirmed COVID-19 cases. Dealing with the impact of the pandemic on schools has not been an easy task. There are polar opposites on opinions on any number of issues associated with the opening, such as mask or no mask, in person or online, social distancing or not social distancing, when and how to open schools and the community, and how to balance education with health and safety. Since I started kindergarten, and Tara, you'll appreciate this, back in 1968, and in my 25 years as a professional educator, I've never experienced anything like this. The constantly updated information from multiple sources, the impact of social media, the politicizing of the pandemic, the personal stories of those affected, and the general uncertainty of the virus has caused many sleepless nights for CV educators as we have developed this plan. We know that it will not be accepted by all. We also know that given the information we have, this is our best plan moving forward. As a side note, this plan is a dynamic plan. Due to directives or assessments of practices and protocols, this plan can and will change. We will continue to present the plan to the board at their regularly scheduled board meetings for their approval and subsequent submission to PDE. So at this time, I'd like to start my presentation highlighting the CV Health and Safety Reopening Plan. First slide is the timeline of what we've experienced since March 13th. I obviously have not changed or added all the different changes that we've gone through, but just highlighted the main ones to get us to where we are today. Let me be upfront, there is no easy answer. COVID-19 has impacted us and the world like never before. And every time we come up with an answer, 10 more questions arise. Guidance and directives from many different sources are constantly being updated and changing and being changed. And as I mentioned before, not everyone agrees on how to handle the pandemic. But what we have to do, our philosophy, is to balance the health and safety with the education of our students. We cannot guarantee someone won't become infected with the virus, but we can put in protocols to increase health and safety. We do understand the importance of an in-person learning for K-12, and we will maximize the safety protocols to help mitigate the spread of the virus. Everyone here empathizes with those who feel trepidation of reopening schools. We all do. If you're saying that you feel confident, I don't know how you're feeling that way, but if you are, maybe I need to talk to you on the side. We need to acknowledge and address those extenuating circumstances for students and staff. Again, acknowledge and address. There are people out there with extenuating circumstances. We need to provide appropriate options for our students and families. Not everyone will find success in a virtual environment. Continue to practice patience, grace, understanding, and flexibility. That's been our motto since March 13th. We are going to continue our collaboration with local healthcare professionals, Department of Ed, Department of Health, federal agencies, and I can give a huge shout out to my colleagues at Lancaster and Lebanon County School Districts. We've met weekly to try to attack this, to make sure that schools throughout both counties open in a safe manner. And what we can promise is that we will continue to do our best to make decisions that directly impact the entire CV community. So the big question is to reopen school or to stay virtual. As been noted before this evening, students need to be back in school in the safest, most practical manner possible. Social emotional learning is so important. School is much more than tests and materials. Just the interaction that students have with each other, that adults have with each other, is possible only when we're in person. We acknowledge there's an at-risk population that needs special attention and needs to be back in school. Special education, those economically disadvantaged, our ELLs, homeless students, and those that are in need of a safe environment. We are the trusted adults that provide an additional set of eyes for all of our children. We have to make up the gaps in learning from spring. The governor told us on March 13th that we were closed for 2 weeks starting that Monday. That ended up being the entire year. School districts across the Commonwealth, and especially in this county, did what I believe is a remarkable job in creating a curriculum and designing and presenting instruction to our students in a virtual manner without having any prior notice other than the weekend to start the next week. We're going to allow for hands-on learning experiences. The impacts on families is almost not needed to be stated. Stress on parents on taking over the instructional component that they had never done before, staying home because they can't go to work because they have to watch their children. And that's a direct impact on the economy. If our families can't work because they're taking care of our children, again, it comes back to are schools open or not. And then, not to be understated, is the impact on the health of our students, faculty, staff, parents, and community. So it's a juggling act, not even a juggling act, it's a balancing act to make sure that we do the right things for everyone to the best of our ability. As was mentioned earlier by the Education Association, there's really three big things that we need to do to mitigate the spread of the COVID-19 virus. Wear a mask or a face shield. PDE has written in their recommendations that a mask or a face shield is accepted. Maintain social distancing to the best of your ability or situation. We understand that we cannot have 6 feet of separation on a school bus. We know it's difficult to get 6 feet of separation in a classroom. So we are going to try to maximize that to the best of our ability. And wash your hands frequently. If there's one thing that elementary teachers and students do well, they like to wash their hands. Now, somewhere between elementary through middle and high school, we're going to have to reteach our older students. And I'm speaking from experience as a father of a middle school student. So we have to get our students to continue to wash their hands. The plan that is being presented to the board has 4 components: facilities cleaning, sanitizing, disinfecting, and ventilation, the social distancing and other protocols, monitoring student and staff health, and other considerations for students and staff. This is what the board will be voting on tonight. What I've done is I've highlighted some of the components that are in the actual plan, which is the second attachment to tonight's presentation. But we've been cleaning since March in preparation to reopen. Ken has got his maintenance and custodial staff doing summer cleaning before summer started because no one was in the buildings. Procedures have been updated and instituted to meet CDC guidelines. And we are following OSHA and CDC with regard to the supplies. High touch points will be cleaned throughout the day, and other surfaces, not services, it should be surfaces, will be cleaned daily after school hours. The HVAC system will be in a 24/7 mode per ASHRAE recommendations. What is ASHRAE? It is the American Society for Heating and Refrigeration and Air Conditioning Engineers. I did not know, so I had to look that one up, so Ken, thank you for that. Filters will be replaced on a regular basis. Here's where it comes into play in the schools, to the maximum extent possible. And I say this because, as I mentioned before, it's impossible to do 6 feet on a bus. Classroom and learning spaces will be reorganized to maximize social distancing. Building schedules and routines will be reassessed to minimize contact. Elementary schools are working off of a cohort model, where classrooms will be self-contained, and in some cases, teachers coming to those classrooms rather than the students being dispersed throughout the school to the next teacher. The middle school is working off of a teaming environment. They've rescheduled their bell schedule to minimize the number of students in the hallways. And we are going to be using common areas and outdoor spaces. If the cafeteria is too small, we're going to be using the hallways and maybe other large areas where we can move tables for lunches and breakfasts. As I mentioned before, students and staff will be trained on hygiene protocol to include hand washing, minimizing the touch points, the appropriate wearing of face masks or face shields, and limiting the sharing of materials. I know the elementary schools, instead of having the common crayon box, are now dividing up the materials so that each student has his or her own materials. Face masks and face shields are strongly encouraged, but not required unless otherwise directed by state or federal direction for students and staff. As of now, the governor has mandated the wearing of face masks and face shields. We concur that this is a safe way to be considerate for others as much as it is for yourself. Transportation schedules will continue to be provided daily to all students. Masks will be mandatory when riding district transportation. And with the potential of more parent-teacher drop-offs, parent-student drop-offs, we're going to have updated procedures at each of the buildings. Because if you've ever dropped your child off at Smoketown or Brownstown, or even the middle school, you know that it is an interesting proposition. So we'll be working with local authorities to see how we can maximize the ease of that procedure. School visitations will be limited to essential support school personnel, and classroom visitors will need prior approval from the building principal. As I mentioned before, this is an active plan, so safety protocols will continuously be evaluated by staff to ensure fidelity of implementation. And in addition to our virtual academy, which has been in existence for, Dr. Mann, 12 years now, I believe, 13 years. If we go to yellow or red, especially in the yellow, the district will deliver an online schedule to reduce the number of students present in the building at any one time. With the red phase, we are not going back to the way it was in the spring. Our teachers have been working diligently over the summer to increase the educational rigor of the courses that they are teaching throughout the year to present an online format that will be acceptable to all. Monitoring student and staff health. This is probably the most dynamic and the one that has the most questions as we move forward. Students and staff will self-check at home before coming to school. What that means is we will have information sent out to the community on how to self-check, temperature check, and certain questions to ask. The big item is do not come to school if you feel ill. Teachers are warriors. They feel that they can work through anything. Not this year. If you do not feel well, stay home. Staff and students should not come to school and must notify school officials if they become sick with COVID-19 symptoms or test positive for COVID-19. If they test positive, the Department of Health will be notifying us as well. How that's going to work is still to be determined by the department. So when I say that this is a flexible, dynamic plan, that's part of the reason is because we don't have all the answers yet from the Department of Health or Department of Ed. They will also be letting us know what the quarantine and isolation procedures will be. We are working locally with our superintendent group, with Penn Medicine, LGH, county commissioners, and local legislators to try and streamline this process so that it is consistent across all 16 districts in Lancaster County. As I mentioned, the Department of Health will let us know if there is a positive. And again, working through our school physician, local healthcare professionals, and the state or federal guidelines, we will continue to modify and adjust as appropriate. Other considerations is the last component of the plan. So we are looking at the use of face masks and/or face shields. Face shields have been ordered for every child in the district and every teacher in the district. Face masks have also been ordered for every teacher in the district. Students and staff at a higher risk for severe illness will be addressed on an individual basis to accommodate any special needs. If a professional staff member has those needs, they should contact the HR department and follow the protocol established there. Students will probably reach out first to the building principals who will help the students and parents develop a plan and see what accommodations may or may not be needed. We are working closely with STS, which is our substitute teaching service, to ensure that there is available substitute teachers. And the input we received 2 weeks ago was that due to the unemployment rate, there has been an increase in the number of substitute teacher applicants to STS. In addition to the modified schedule, where appropriate, professional development will be presented to all faculty and staff. The opening week of school is going to look unlike any other. And the reason is it's probably following the elementary model. When I first went into an elementary school and said, how do you get your kids to do what they do as a first grader? And they said, come during the first 2 weeks of school. It's routine, routine, routine. So what we're going to do on August 24th, we had planned for elementary only, and that will occur as well. Elementary students will come to school on Monday, August 24th. On August 25th, and they will continue to go to school for the entire week. On Tuesday, the 25th, grades 7 and 9 will be in person at the middle school and high school respectively. Protocols and procedures will be covered with those students throughout the entire day. And then the remaining grades 8, 10, 11, and 12 will have virtual instruction and assignments. On Wednesday, 8th and 10th graders will come in to the buildings while the others remain virtual. Thursday, all middle school students will be in person, as well as 11th and 12th graders at the high school. 9th and 10th graders will remain virtual. And then on Friday, all students will be in person. Moving forward, and this is important, I believe, for a lot of the parents, because I don't have the specific answers in the buildings, but your building principals do. So tonight, we are presenting the board the plan for approval. We'll have tomorrow to take some questions, some answers, really digest what the plan is looking like. And then on Wednesday, the building principals will present an informative video to each of their school communities of how the plan will affect their respective buildings. So Mr. Quirk will take care of the middle school, Dr. Bredeman will take care of Smoketown, et cetera. Thursday, I'm sure they're prepared for a lot of questions coming at them after they make their presentation. Hopefully the questions are answered. And on Friday, we're going to send out a follow-up survey to our parents and guardians regarding in-person instruction. Do you want to come into school knowing now, or knowing on Thursday or Friday, what you know about the protocols and procedures in place? Or would you like to go through the CV Virtual Academy? And we can look at that option as well to make sure that is appropriate. Bus transportation. Are you going to be dropping off your student, or are they going to be riding the bus? It's important to know these numbers so that we can develop procedures on how we can do that in the most effective way possible. Are you going to purchase breakfast or lunch or pack from home? Again, this helps us plan as we move forward with how we are going to work throughout this opening weeks and months of the new school year. And we will create a frequently asked questions, which will be posted on Friday and updated regularly. These questions are going to be coming from the questions that are going to be asked to our building principals throughout the week. At the end of the presentation here, I've just listed some additional resources where we received a lot of our information, Department of Ed, Department of Health, and the Centers for Disease Control. Mr. President, that concludes my PowerPoint presentation. And if you go to
Well, Board, as Dr. Z opens up that other document, I'm assuming that's what you're trying to do?
Yep, it's open now.
All right. Is there any, Board, do you have questions? Do you have comments? Do you have anything you'd like to get further clarification on that Dr. Z, and I think it would be appropriate for Dennis or Sally, if we have questions for them, because they led the charge in helping to do this and put this together, so it would be appropriate, I think, to ask, and Ken, to ask any one of those that we have here questions. So please, feel free.
I have some comments, Todd.
Yep.
First, I really want to thank everyone for the work that they've done to put into this plan. And we have had some other briefings and board retreats and feel very blessed by the hard work, especially Dennis and Sally back there and our athletic director and everything that we've done to get our kids back to school. And I know we're in a hard time, and as Dr. Z, and thank you for that wonderful presentation, has talked about, there's some very different feelings on this program. And I have a daughter who's an RN, and she takes care of COVID patients most days because she's in couplet care. They're in negative pressure rooms and has people in her family that have some risks to their health. So I know that there's risks for all of our jobs, for our first responders, for our nurses, for everyone in life. We live in a situation where we're balancing risk and what's essential for the work that we do. And on July 10th, a report came out from the Journal on Pediatrics talking about students and the rate in which they get this disease and the rate in which they transmit it. And just to kind of put that in perspective, they don't believe students really transmit the disease. And of the people who have gotten it, 94% of them are over the age of 24. So, I mean, when you're looking at those numbers, that doesn't mean it's not still dangerous. That doesn't mean people might not still get sick. But when we look at the transmission rate of flu, and we look at risks of car accidents and other things that are out there that really hurt people, it's a risk management situation when we decide, are we going to educate our kids? And I heard one doctor, Dr. Atlas from the Hoover Institute at Stanford, say during the midst of this crisis, which I know has been hard on everybody, it's just been unbelievable, that we're not really saving lives, we're trading lives for lives. And some of the statistics that have been so overwhelming for me is to see that we've had a 30% increase in ER visits for child abuse. And this is not like give your kid a black eye. This is, I think I killed my kid. Where do we have children in child abuse mostly being reported? It's from our teachers. It's in our schools. That's the same place that we know kids get hearing aids. It's where kids get notified that they need, often it's notified that they need to get glasses. And Dr. Z used the statistics about our other at-risk populations, our kids that are, depend on the school nutrition program. And all of those statistics say to me, we really cannot abandon our most vulnerable students that are out there that need to be in school. If we went to a program other than opening up the school fully, I could take care of my children, but that's not true for all single parents. And what we know, and we know in this particular crisis, suicide rates are up, homicide rates are up, severe violence is up, and this is our future. These are our kids. And they need to be in school. And when we look at the statistics of what they have for transmitting the disease, and we know ways in which we can mitigate that, I just so strongly feel like we just have to do everything we can to keep our students in the building. Now, I have a son-in-law who came to this country as a refugee, as an English language learner. And I have also had the privilege of tutoring a girl weekly from a neighboring school district who came here from a refugee camp from Africa. My son-in-law, because of being in a U.S. school and because of the English programs, learned to speak English fluently in a year. And at 27 now, owns 3 businesses in Texas. I mean, it's just been fantastic to watch him come from a refugee to those opportunities. And the young woman that I've been tutoring has a desire to be a productive member of this country. But she can't even FaceTime with me. I couldn't meet with her during the virus because she doesn't have the technology at home. Her parents don't speak the language. And I think we have, Dr. Z, 43 languages, students in our district that don't speak English as their first language. Their parents cannot help them at home. And they need us. You know, they have come here often, like the young girl that I tutor, from an absolutely horrific situation. And they realize education is their future. And it's our job to give that to them. And so I just, without crying, want to say very passionately, I believe we have to support our most vulnerable students by providing them an in-person education. The other point that I want to make is that I want us all to remember that we as a school district work in local parentis. We come alongside of parents, and they are the first decision makers for the education for their children. And we help them, we support them. And so both with education and with their health, it's the parents that are the lead, and I think it's so important that we stay in our lane as well. I happen to be a person with very low blood pressure. If I wore a mask all day, I would pass out. I know students that have POTS, and that's a syndrome where you pass out as well from low blood pressure. And I've had a number of parents say to me, including today, a parent tell me he was just going to pull his children out of the district because he is not going to have them wear masks for certain issues that are personal to them, with their health, but he does not want his children to be shamed. So he was going to pull them out and put them in a cyber program. That's not necessarily good for our district. I don't think it's necessarily good for our kids. So as we move forward with the governor's directives, which are very clear, and we can make sure all of our parents know that, as Dr. Z said, I also want to be clear that I strongly support the parents' rights to make their own health decisions. And I believe the HIPAA laws that have been put in place by duly elected legislators do not allow us to harass students in a way that would make them feel ashamed or uncomfortable if they are not able to wear a mask. So we all know what our responsibilities are. We all know what risks are, but we also have to remember who's responsible in each one of those lanes. And I know I went way over my time. Todd, you could have cut me off, but I appreciate it.
Board, other comments, please, or questions?
I think from what Julia said, for me, the only part that really matters was the very last part of it. All the data and all the facts and all the percentage of risk really don't mean anything if we're talking about my child or if you're talking about your child. I would not want my child to have a 1% chance of getting really, really sick. So I think, well, unfortunately, as a board, we may be in loco parentis, but you can't be a parent to 4,200 children. And I think what we have to emphasize, as she said, is that each parent needs to think very carefully about what works best for their child. My guess is right now we have no idea how many kids are going to show up the first day.
No, our initial survey, we had 95% of elementary said that they would be here in person, but that's even before hearing the plan. It was 75% of secondary with 20% doing a blended model. So what's going to happen next Friday, I don't know.
We'll know when they show up.
Yes, ma'am.
And I don't know how prepared we are for how large a CVVA group we're going to have.
We will be ready.
But I assume whatever it is, we'll be ready for. I just think, I listened to Tara very carefully, and I found her logic to be impeccable. And I am really, if I were listening to the two choices, I would really be torn, because I think they both have problems, and they both have gapping holes that we don't know how the parents will choose to fill. And at this point, it's just that I feel we have to make sure that we make all options available. You would like them to be there half days. I think every parent has to decide for themselves how to make this work. And that will probably change almost weekly. You know, kids that started virtual will decide they don't like it. Kids that had to wear masks will decide they can't get through it. In fact, I'm just about getting through this evening. I too have low blood pressure. And my concern with this plan isn't critical. It's just there are huge holes in it, because we don't really know what it's going to look like at Brownstown and at Smoketown. And you mentioned Thursday, and I assume that the principals will make it clear how they can get through and to whom to get all of their questions answered, which I think is the key for every parent, to make sure they have the information they need to make a good decision, and for us to give them as many possible variables. Because quite frankly, we have no idea what next week's going to bring, and we simply have to be there for these kids. I will add that when I first ran for school board a couple years back,
Couple.
yeah, a couple of three, whatever. I've lost count. I'm not a math. I was never a math teacher. I was an English teacher. My original saying was that our community gives us the two most prized possessions: their kids and their money, and we have to take care of both.
Amen.
Kids first. And I know this is going to cost. I haven't even asked how much. Of course, what it costs, we do what we have to do. We're fortunate that we're a district that can sort of manage that. There are so many what-ifs in this plan that I assume somewhere exist in specific guidelines for specific buildings. So basically, all that we're approving tonight is a checklist saying we have looked at all the areas we need to look at, and we're addressing them. Some are musts. Oh, I listened to a legal presentation the other day that talked about the difference between must and may and should and would and might. Legally, I could care less about that. I care more about what works. So all we're saying is that we're convinced as a board that we have considered everything we have to, and the rest of what needs to be taken care of, we have to have confidence that each building will make work. And then we'll all go home and lose a night's sleep over it. But I think we did an excellent job of checking out all the boxes and maybe looking even farther. There was one thing I noticed that caught my eye today, a discussion about masks. Is it clear that those with the ventilation are not acceptable?
It says that the ventilation,
They have some out now with small ventilation.
it's like a hole in their mask?
Yep.
You can turn it. I have this one.
Yeah, and they should be, that's one of those things that you don't plan on until somebody shows up with one, and you have to know what you're going to do. But no matter what we decide, I won't be happy. But we'll do the best we can with the concern for our kids. I guarantee that, and our staff. And if problems arise, the sooner we address it, the sooner we learn to do it better.
Keisha,
I think a number of important points and comments.
can you pull the
A
mic
number
closer to you?
of important points and comments have been made so far regarding this evening. I agree that I appreciate the information that Tara shared with us as well, and I would hope that there could be some sort of narrative. I 100% agree that if folks have health-related issues and where they cannot wear masks, that is different. But if we are looking at the health and safety of our students, our teachers, as well as our staff, I would hope that our language would be stronger as it relates to those who are able to wear masks.
Dana?
I'd just like to say thank you to all of the teachers and the staff and the administrators and everyone who has worked diligently all summer to dodge all of the changing guidelines and everything. It can't have been an easy job. It's still not easy. I'd also like to thank the parents that have reached out with their questions and concerns, and I wish that they would continue to do so, especially in these meetings in the individual buildings, that once they see what will be happening, that they will continue to be engaged. And that's all we can ask, is to be in partnership with families.
Anyone else?
I would say that I agree with many things that have been said tonight, and Dad, I agree with you that our kids are the most important here. And so I think as we deal with the issues that will arise with our staff and with our kids, I think we have to be willing to be flexible. And that's what I appreciate about this the most. There's flexibility. And I think we're gonna come up with questions that we don't know yet. There's gonna be situations that arise, and we're gonna need to be willing to move quickly and all have grace with each other. That's one thing that I've found through this whole deal is many people have grace. So I think that's a good deal. And so while we may make a decision tonight that people agree or disagree with, I think this board has always worked hard to keep the interests of our students at the forefront, while balancing that with the interests of our staff as well. And so, Tara, I appreciate your comments tonight. I think you have made a lot of good points. I think that I think the key to this is flexibility for all of us and making sure that we're able to quickly change things if we need to. And so I appreciate all the hard work that went into this, and it will be, I'm looking forward to a good school year.
Anyone else?
No, I just want to acknowledge basically what everybody else is saying, you know, the hard work, especially the administration, and what the teachers are going to have to go through. I mean, they're going to have, not only the students, but the teachers that are going to have to come in day-to-day worrying about the daily life, not only themselves, but their students to keep them safe. And whatever, like what everyone else is saying, there is no easy answer. There just isn't. This is something that no one's faced before. And as John said, we're going to be flexible on every aspect and every issue that arises. But I also do want to thank Dr. Z for his leadership. I know he has been busy thanking everybody and their mother for everything that they've done. But with all his information that he gives us, phone calls, texts, emails, and everything that he has done, I mean, he's been giving us so much information, I just want him to stop giving it at times. But seriously, Dr. Z, I think your leadership during all this pandemic has been astronomical, and from me, I just wanted you to know that.
You want to say anything? Go ahead.
So I would echo, obviously, everything that everyone has said.
You can pull it closer to you. It's not stationary.
Just that I echo everything that you all have already said, and I think just making it a point to be sensitive to everyone's opinions and thoughts, and respecting that everyone needs to do what's best for their family. And again, just being sensitive to the staff needs and the student needs, if anything out of the ordinary, everything's out of the ordinary right now, but anything unexpected comes up, just being thoughtful about responses and how things are handled.
Blake, anything?
Go last. Thank you, Tara, for your for your comments, for your thoughts, for your analysis. Piece of that. There is a risk associated with this, and coming from the vaccines industry, we're going to be with this for a while. Okay, it's not going away. I wish it was, but it's not, and we're just going to have to manage it as we go forward. I think everything on your list, I think we can manage it, whether it's as a whole or one-on-one basis from people that have concerns. I know come August, there's going to be 2 high schoolers and an elementary schoolers that's going to show up for class, and they're going to be mine. I know I talked with other parents, and I think when we take a look at the survey, I think that some parents will do the virtual option, but 9.9% of the parents that I've talked with understand the risk, they understand the plan, they're willing to accept what we're doing with the flexibility of it, and willing to take that leap of faith. And we've already started that leap of faith, because in the summertime, we're already having summer workouts for field hockey, and we haven't had any issues. So we are taking those steps now, and I think in the fall, this plan may or may not change. I'm assuming it's gonna be like a battle. As soon as you hit your battle plan gets thrown out the window within 10 minutes. It could be. But the good news about it is that at least this is a plan. At least it's a plan to go forward, and it's at least a plan for a start date, knowing that it's going to probably change. And it's probably going to change rapidly, if it does. And I'm okay with that.
And I don't, like I said, I could be long-winded, and I won't, because I don't need to repeat everything that everybody said. But one of the things that's been on my heart of hearts for this whole thing, and sometimes we see things like this bring out the best in people, and it brings out the worst in people. And one of the things that I think is key for all of us, whether it's a board member, whether it's faculty, staff, administration, and to all our parents listening online who are concerned about what this is going to look like, I like John's words of flexibility. But the most important thing, too, for me, is that each one of us has our opinion. Strong, not so strong, whatever that thing may be. Sometimes we're going to, you want to stand on a soapbox and do your thing. And I know that I've done that in the past and maybe shouldn't have. But the reality of it is we all have different opinions. We all have a way that we think this thing should go or shouldn't go. The most important thing, too, for me is that we respect each other's opinions and that I allow someone to have their opinion, they allow me to have mine. I'm not going to try to argue with you about it. So I just think as we're flexible, as we support the administration in making changes that they inevitably may have to make, we respect each other in this process because that's what makes our communities great. That's what makes our schools great. That's what helps us support each other and can bring us together rather than divide us. So I know that we've done this in the past at times, and I know it's gonna take a little bit longer maybe if we have to. But before we take a motion as a board, before we move into this, is there anybody here in the building that has a comment prior to us moving to a vote on this? We've done this in the past for things. I feel it's important that if there's anyone that has a comment, they are free to share it now, and we'll listen to that. Again, this is not necessarily a question and answer. You have the plan in front of you. We have the plan, and so that's where we're going to move forward. But I will welcome comments now if there are any.
Hi, my name is Becky Unruh, Charles Place, Brownstown. I just have a question of clarity regarding what was presented. In regards to the opening week and the staggered in-person and virtual, is there a timeline for how long you plan to continue that? Or is it just the first week of August? Or the opening week?
For our understanding of the plan, it's that first week of August. It's
Okay.
just that first week.
And then will other building managers have that same option of controlling who shows up per grade?
No, the plan that you saw that was on the slide?
Yeah.
That's the plan. Elementary comes on Monday,
Okay.
and then it's staggered, like elementary's Monday through Friday.
Okay.
And then it's just like the screen showed.
All right, thank you.
Yep.
And I think we planned that, right? We planned for elementary to come early
Just so.
because
so
for
do some
parent-teacher
training.
conferences.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that was by design.
Another comment?
Hi, I'm Tucker York, East Lampeter Township. Just want to strongly encourage the board. Just to let you know, I'm strongly in favor of in-person instruction. And just a comment, maybe a question regarding the hybrid model and online the likely increase in online instruction. Is there a mitigation strategy for to help with the problem of sexual predation? Just educating parents, educating students, teachers. There's been reports of increased sexual predators preying upon students, and I just wanted to raise that as an awareness, and is there a mitigation plan to help educate and protect students?
You want to comment?
Tucker, you mean for like online kids, they're being pursued, especially?
Kids that are being preyed on by sexual predators
Yeah.
online. Adults preying upon students when they're getting online instruction.
Thank you. Probably
Thank you.
something we should think about.
Well, are we talking through Zoom? Are we talking through online class? Are we talking just in general?
Just maybe in general, just with more and more students spend more and more time online.
Yeah.
With their education.
So I know it's Zoom classes. So I have a fifth grader, right? And she couldn't log on through Zoom on her computer.
Right.
So she logged on through mine, and it had my name that she changed to Darth Maul.
Right.
Okay? And then, but the teacher caught that. So the teacher caught that it was who had allowed the person into the room, but she realized it wasn't the student, but it was an actual someone else's name, which was my name. And she had asked who that person was. She validated, she verified it, and she let it go through.
Mike, I think there's been some statistics that have come out, some research that while kids are at home and a lot of them alone,
Yeah.
not necessarily on Zoom, just on their computer, it's been a sort of feeding frenzy for sexual predators to have access to kids who are not being supervised. So I don't think it's necessarily
different
Zoom. This is
Conversation, is this at home or at school?
right.
general?
Like, well, you have kids at home on their computer alone,
Yeah.
And they might be on Zoom, but then they might be doing work, asynchronously and get on these different websites and end up in a place where you've really seen an increase of sexual predators.
May I suggest we refer the gentleman to Mr. Appleby?
Yeah,
And
I was just-
and to the CV.
I was just going to say,
Academy
right.
people, so that they can talk to him about the technology we use and assure him for whatever safety measures that he thinks are necessary.
Sure, and it's certainly something that we can continue to address, helping our students and parents understand the nature of being online.
Yeah,
Well,
maybe
I think as we
just
have, even
awareness,
had this not
education,
happened,
and just vigilance to help. protect the
as we
students.
have more online,
Yep.
even if this did not happen, I think safety online has always been a growing issue that we have to
Absolutely.
train our kids in, but I think he should be referred to the
Thank you,
proper
sir.
people to answer that.
Thank you.
Hi, my name is Vicki Henderson. I have taught at CV. This is my 28th year. CV is my family. The kids are my family. My fellow staff is my family. I teach human beings, not numbers. And I fear for the safety of my kids. I fear because I will be in a classroom with 24 kids. I can't keep them safe. I can't socially distance those kids and keep them safe. I know that so many people put in so much work, but it's just logical. If I have 24 kids in a classroom, I can't keep them safe. I strongly implore you, I know that Terry already spoke, to consider a model where I can be in person with my kids, but just half at a time. I want to teach them. I want to keep them safe. 1%, one kid getting seriously ill, one staff getting seriously ill, someone dying, it's too much to risk. If I gave you a bag of Skittles, 100 of them, and I said, one of these Skittles will kill you, will you open that bag? Thank you for your consideration.
Thanks, Vicki.
Hi, I'm Dory Shetter. I'm a teacher at Leola Elementary. I was a Conestoga Valley graduate. And my husband and I have lived, he's lived in the district longer than I have. I was in Manheim Township for a short time, but we are raising 3 students who have either gone through the Conestoga Valley system or are currently in the system. I also brought a picture of our family. And my husband is a T56 paraplegic. He has an extenuating system, or what do you call it? I don't know. I'm very nervous. I'm sorry. He's compromised. His lung function is compromised. I also have a 21-year-old and a 16-year-old in the house. We are educated parents. We are rational parents. It has been so difficult to monitor and to educate the 16-year-old and the 21-year-old about risks. The 21-year-old was out with friends on a Tuesday. The friend got sick on a Thursday. We found out on the following Tuesday that he was COVID positive. The 21-year-old didn't tell us for several days. So for several days as a family, we sat together at the dinner table. If the 21-year-old had been positive, the 16-year-old would have been in school with all the other high school students here in our district spreading COVID. It's so risky to have suggested mask use for students. It's so risky. My husband is their only remaining biological parent. I don't want those children to lose him. And there is more that we need to do. You know, I don't hear any detail. I know our staff at Leola, our custodial staff, is outstanding. They try their hardest. But for probably 6 weeks of the school year before we closed, there was no sink that was usable in the girls' bathroom in the 6th grade hallway. And it wasn't because the custodial staff was neglectful. So we have to do better. We've had so many issues in the buildings. We're not prepared for this. You are not prepared as a board to make the kind of decisions that will keep those students safe and will keep my husband safe. I thank you for your time.
All right, board, that looks like it's it. Any other comments from the board before we? All right. With the information that we have, board, you've heard the plan, you've heard Dr. Z, you've heard anybody else, so we've had our chance to ask questions. With that, board, I will take a motion to approve their plan as presented, with the understanding that it's flexible. It's got, as Idette said, it's got gaps in it, but some of those gaps are going to have to be filled as we figure out what this thing looks like going forward. So, yeah, so I want to start with a roll call, starting with Mike.
You can make a motion,
Yep.
correct?
Oh, sorry. Yeah.
And you want to make a motion?
I need a motion.
I'll move that we accept the plan as presented.
I'll second.
With that, roll call, starting with Mike.
Aye.
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 And aye. So I want to say thank you to the administration. Thank you to everyone who was involved in their hard work. And we will trust as a board that you will continue to monitor this. You will continue to work hard at keeping our students safe. And I would mention, along with Ms. Shedder's comments, that if there are things that need to be fixed in our schools, that they get fixed. I think they need to get fixed. So.
And also, I think, President, that we remind people there is an online option.
Absolutely.
There is an online option if you
We
don't
have worked
feel
very hard to develop a robust online presence for our students. And so, and I would say that to anyone watching, I would say to anyone in the building, if this concerns you, if the plan concerns you and it's not what you had hoped or it's not what you want, please be cognizant of the fact that we have a wonderful online program that will suit your student. So,
Could I add that this isn't something we just came up with because we need it now?
Correct.
This is something we've done for years.
Right.
This is a well-developed program.
absolutely. All right. Dr. Z, moving on to the resolution for the 180 days.
Waiting for my computer to get to it. When my computer finally gets there, the resolution, basically one of the concerns that superintendents had was what happens if we have to close schools or if we have to go to an online option, and how do we measure the 180 days or the 900 and 900 required hours. This resolution allows us to do that in terms of the pandemic, and we will set up a system that allows us to measure and count those days when students are not in class, if and when that time would come. We just have to have a formal resolution for us to allow to count the online time.
Sure.
I move we accept the resolution.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Approved. All right. Dr. Z, do somebody want to talk to us about the induction schedule, or it was just for us to look at, or your computer's still catching up?
No, that'll be gone, man.
Okay.
Dr. Mann.
All right, Dr. Mann.
The induction schedule is there for your review. Obviously, very different than it's been in the past because we're doing it online. So induction will be online, and you can see that there. The team has worked very hard and continue to work in putting together these sessions and for every staff. So,
I'll just make one quick comment. And I probably should have made it earlier. It was wonderful to read all the resumes of our new staff, especially the ones that are coming on now. We just really some fantastic teachers. Exciting to see all their backgrounds.
Could I ask one question? And maybe it's more for Dr. Z, I'm not sure, but as we get more new teachers coming in, I've always been concerned that our colleges that prepare teachers tend to lag behind the times. Are we starting to see more of them who are competent with the technology? I mean, we used to have to teach teachers how to use technology in the classroom because the colleges didn't do that. And I'm just wondering if they've started to finally come into the 21st century. If I could make it into this century, surely they could.
Do you think you have made it? I'm just kidding.
Ow. Okay, moving on. Moving on.
No, I'm just.
Any other comments for Don as far as the induction schedule?
I'm having to ask.
All right.
a bunch of-
Thank you, Don. Dr. Z, any federal funds tonight?
No, sir.
Idette, we have your reports in front of us. Any highlights other than what you put there that you'd like to say?
Yes, I'd like to add one. Right before I came here tonight, I quickly sent a picture. No, Dr. Z, I think I didn't have you on that email.
I saw that.
But you've seen it. The IU, let me back up. For years, we have whined about charter schools spending money on advertising and never done anything about it. This year, the IU and all the superintendents, especially with what's going on now, have decided there is something we can do to promote our own quality online courses. And I sent a picture of a billboard that is somewhere on Route 30. I'm not sure where. I haven't driven by to find it yet. But all of the school districts in both Lancaster and Lebanon have come up with a cooperative agreement. There are 76 billboards in the 2 counties, at least one in every district. They've been able to do this very efficiently and effectively because of the number of billboards that they bought. They were able to get a good price, more than what we could have. It started off, it would have cost each school district about half of what it cost to send one student to what I call a commercial cyber school. And till it was all done, the IU underwrote 60% of it, so it cost even less. In addition to the billboard, there will be print ads, Google ads, web ads, and social media. And I think this is something that's probably long overdue for us to promoting our own schools. And on each one, if you go to localcyber.org, it'll show you the list of districts, the 16 districts in Lancaster County. You click on the district, and you're right on the website for that district's virtual school. It's,
That's awesome.
I think, a great cooperative thing for the superintendents and the IU to get together and do.
Absolutely, that's awesome.
Thanks for the picture too, Idette. It was
Yeah.
great to see.
I don't know, if anyone finds it, let me know where that is.
I also just think it's a great reminder for us now as parents are making these decisions that we can encourage them to stay in our district because it is a huge financial strain on us if they don't.
Well, I think educationally too, so when I make a comment that usually comes under board comments.
Sure.
We've talked so much about the health of our students, which of course is important, but I'm also concerned about their education. That is the business we're in. I'm just guessing we have very few kids, say, going into 4th grade that have really finished 3rd grade. And at some point, and I've mentioned this to Dr. Z before, and I'm sure our people are working on a whole different revamping of the progress of our curriculum development, because you don't have 4th graders that maybe are as masterful in certain areas as they would like to be. And I think if they're in our own cyber school, as they go, and some will, go in and out of it, if they're in our system, it's much smoother for these students educationally to be in the cyber program that matches their school district as we try to get this curriculum aligned again.
Agreed. Great. Thank you, Idette.
You're welcome.
John, any updates from the CTC?
None tonight, sir.
Okay. Fred, is Fred around? Fred was is he around?
Yes,
Gonna sneak in from the back room there?
Pat, if you can get Fred out of the...
There he comes. How you doing, Fred? That's fine.
You want to start with Brownstown, Fred?
Come up here, come up to this mic, Fred.
Yes, Brownstown, and actually Matt with Murado, Maine was in earlier talking about the schedule. Basically, the project's 80%, the overall project is 80% complete. But as far as the phases now to get into the August 20 or 3.5 weeks from now is tight, is very tight. They've got a lot of work to do. They have basically the time, if they work evenings and work some weekends, they should be able to get it done, but it is very tight. They are in the finishing out the phases 5, 6, and 7, but there are a couple priority areas that were listed that they're working on: cafeteria, admin, and the kitchen. Any questions on Brownstown?
That's all right.
Oh, that's all right. You know. The other item I have, of course, is the new middle school.
Is this Brownstown?
That's Brownstown, yeah. So basically, there's some outside. They're working on the outside sidewalks. They're working on the parking lot, the curbs. That's the kitchen floor infill. Propane tank slab on the outside. Again, a lot of site work going on. The new canopy, the new drop-off canopy, and another view of that in the parking lot and curbs.
Awesome. Cool.
So I also sent over the middle school. We don't have to go through the pictures if you don't want, but fundamentally that project, which there is a mistake on this report, I apologize immensely. Somehow 76% complete got put on there. That can't be.
Amazing.
That can't be. It's 3% complete fundamentally. And but really what's happening is the entire site stripped. They're stocking topsoil and various soils. They're doing some blasting to get grades and get the site balanced, and more importantly, they are working on their soil and water conservation BMPs, as they say, or the ponds and the erosion sediment control. But that's a pretty good overall picture of this site right there.
Do I understand you said they've already started some blasting and digging?
They have, yes, that's correct.
Are we finding more rock than we expected, or?
No reports that way. No, they're dealing with what they anticipated.
Oh, good.
Yes.
Awesome. Any questions? Any other questions? Thanks, Fred.
Okay.
Thank you. Board, you have in front of you an attachment that shows our meetings for the 2021 school year. Look it over. I think they should be consistent somewhat with previous years. So you have that. And now, again, I'll say this is our second time in our meeting for public comments. I know we had some before our vote. Again, this is our time, public, for your comments. Again, keep them brief for us. And again, board, remember, this is not a question and answer. So if there's any comments from the public now, you're free to come again. If not, we'll continue to move forward. So, all right. I don't see anyone coming. There's some nods. All right. So, any board matters tonight? Announcements or initiatives, board, that you would have to? All right. Hearing none. Board, you can see our calendar for next month. The 10th and the 17th are our meeting dates. And with that, board, I will take a motion to adjourn to executive session for personnel and student matters.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
We are adjourned. Thank you, everyone.